Puedo hablar en castellano, pero portugués no mucho. Portuñol, no sé. But I guess I'll go English, unless everyone prefers Spanish, which sometimes happens in Portugal. Um, last time I was with Vitor here in Portugal was 9 years ago in Bragança, I think. And that was before I started Iomob. I've been in smart cities for a very long time. And what's that? Yeah, it's not mine. I can try to present this, but it's in Portuguese and it's not my content, but I'll figure it out. While we're waiting, what can I say? Okay, so what a joke. How about you, George? No? Okay. We're an intimate group here, although, you know, Vitor promises me there's like 80,000 people watching on the streaming here live, so, you know. There I am. Okay. So, in the smart cities journey I've been on, I spent many years looking at the entire scope of what a smart city is. I built the Smart Cities Wheel, which has been used here and around the world as a way to sort of benchmark and rank and evaluate smart cities. Here with Rob Adams, who spoke yesterday, we actually did a modernization of the Smart Cities Wheel, looking at it from the bottom up, from a happy citizen perspective. That was several years ago from the Smart City Expo output. And in the Smart Cities Wheel and all my work, of course, in the smart city space, you know, you have something around energy and people and the way the government interacts with residents. You have buildings. You have ICT infrastructure of all kinds. So you have these sort of different categories of smart cities activity. And over time, I decided to get more and more focused on one of those. And for me, it's mobility. I'm very passionate about mobility. I don't drive a car. I don't have a driver's license. I actually hate being in cars. I really do. And I live my life on trains, bikes. I mountain bike every weekend, scooters, transit, metro. That's how I move around the world. And because of that background I have, I was inspired to build a company that was really focused on these challenges that we see in the mobility space. All of us here in this room, because anyone who cares about smart cities is well aware of the issues we have with climate change. And you're all aware, I'm sure, that transit is one of the biggest contributors to climate change worldwide and the largest one of individuals. So while industry still has more emissions from energy, us as people consume more emissions from our mobility choices, flying, driving everywhere, etc. And it's the only category of activity economically in the world that has not reduced its rate of emissions since 1990. Funny though, it's also one of the categories of innovation where we've had the most introduction of alternatives that would allow us to live a carbon neutral lifestyle. There are tens of thousands of public, private, and shared mobility services that are green, that are either net zero or very green. Scooter fleets, bike sharing fleets, electric car sharing fleets, trains, buses, even ferries or even electric ferries. So we've seen a lot of innovation in the opportunities for business models and for technology to contribute to low carbon mobility. But we still haven't gotten there in terms of adopting it at scale. And that's what my company Iomob's been focused on, is how do we solve that? So this is an example. This is from like 3 years ago, and that's only like a microcosm of all the different kinds of emergent mobility services that have come into the market. Many of these business models and companies didn't exist 5 years ago. It's been an explosion. The barrier to entry to offer mobility services in cities around the world is fairly low compared to a lot of other technology innovations, right? In terms of the cost of the introduction of the technology, the deployment. You look at some of the early examples and trials around bike sharing and, like, you know, Bird. You know, Bird started, I mean, they're a crazy story, right? Because they started in California about 2018-ish, I think. And within a year, they were worth $1 billion already. Now they're worth much less because their business model is being challenged. But, you know, how did they got so big so fast, and all they did was acquire cheap scooters, put some software in it so you could rent it on demand, put them out on the street, and people just started using them. So the barrier to entry is low. Of course, cities have struggled with their relationship with some of these services, and increasingly they're putting regulations or prohibiting them, which has been part of their challenge to scaling their business over time. But we've seen just a massive infusion of new mobility services. One of the things that's so interesting to me, and this kind of ties into something that's probably out of scope for this conversation, is that each of these organizations are embracing a Web 2 mindset and a walled garden. So if for some of you are familiar with that in the sort of Web 2 world or the software world, a walled garden is the idea of I'm going to build a product, I'm going to own my user, and I'll own them probably through a mobile app, and they're mine, and they're stuck with me, and the only way they can get my service is when they download my app and book through my app. That Web 2 mindset has led to a lot of problems and inefficiencies, not just in transportation mobility, but in every industry. I'm really bullish on blockchain and Web3. And I don't want to waste our time trying to, because this blockchain tends to be a subject that in the smart city space, a lot of the audience is not yet that familiar with. So I don't want to bog you down in details. But the concept of tackling fragmentation problems and coordination problems in transportation through blockchain is very powerful. And why is that so is because if every company that launches a service and every transit agency that has their own public transit service has their own app, if all these services exist, car sharing, bike sharing, scooter sharing, trains, buses, bikes, urban air mobility, you name it. All of these are all separate apps. All right, take Rob and I. We came here from other parts of Europe the last few days. We come to Porto for a day and we're moving around. How many mobility services that operate in Porto have an app that we have? As in, he lives in Eindhoven, I live in Barcelona. Very few companies that have apps on my phone operate mobility services in Porto. In some cases, none. Even Uber in many markets doesn't operate, right? So the challenge of this fragmentation all around the world means it's super hard for any one of us to navigate all the fragmented mobility services that are all in this Web 2 paradigm that they all want to own their own user with their own app. The idea of a more decentralized approach to mobility that facilitates a more seamless connectivity of mobility services around the world is that you and I can travel anywhere in the world using whatever mobile app we want, and we can discover mobility services near us, like a scooter or a bike, regardless of whether we have that bike or scooter company on our phone. We can get a combined multimodal journey. Ari, who was here yesterday, just is on a train back to Lisbon today. You know, if he had a service like this, he could do a door-to-door journey with a rail operator that would allow him to do his whole journey through one app and book a taxi if he needs it, or an Uber, a scooter for his last mile if he wants, and not have to discover the mobility services in each part of his journey. Same with me when I go back to Barcelona. What happens when I or Rob or Ari or whoever arrives to the airport in Porto and we realize none of the apps we have on our phone are useful in Porto? What do most people do? They go to the taxi stand, take a taxi. That's what they do. Like 98% of people who travel, that's what they do. Why? I don't want to figure out I don't even know the local even if I know one, I have to download a new app. I'm only going to be here for 3 days. Forget it. I'm just going to go and take a taxi. Well, if the whole world just takes a taxi or Similarly, like this happens with our clients in the UK, London Northeastern Rail is one of our clients that's using our technology to provide seamless door-to-door journeys for their passengers. The idea, they call it more journeys more often. They project 6 million more journeys per year because they're using our technology. And why do they project that? Is because their users tell them that the reason they don't take trains more often is it's too frustrating to figure out how and when to get to the train station. Will they get there on time? Then when they get to the other station, because it's in another city, none of their apps work. They don't know if they'll get to the meeting on time. So they just take their car, which is in the garage. They have a key. They go open their garage door. They open their car, and they go to the destination. Okay, they're going to be stuck in traffic for 3 hours. They're not going to be able to use the internet or work during that time because they're driving. They're contributing to their own poor quality of life because they're stuck in traffic, which is stressful. They're contributing to climate change, and they could do it probably in many cases faster if they did a door-to-door journey with London Northeastern Rail, but it's too complicated for them to figure out the first and last mile, so they just forget and take the car. Based on their own user research, they can get 6 million more journeys if they solve this fragmentation problem in all these cities. Because they go from London Northeastern Rail all the way to Brighton, or no, not Brighton, they go to Scotland. And on that journey, there's many cities that are not served by the mobility service providers that exist in London. And so if I'm a user in London, all my apps for moving around London are useless when I get to another town. So people just say, forget it, I'll just take my own car, despite all the reasons they shouldn't take their car. So that's the concept of, for those of you familiar with mobility and smart cities, you will all have heard of the terms mobility as a service, MaaS. Our first product is a platform that does what I just described. We basically connect services. We have Uber and Bolt, but we also have taxis, we have scooters, we have bikes, we have parking, we will have EV charging, we have Via bus on demand services. We integrate all these services into this software platform, and then we allow public or private organizations, train companies, cities, transit agencies, airlines, hotels, to add mobility networks to their own mobile app. So you're in the, I don't know, you're in the Marriott Hotels app and you want to figure out how to get to and from your airport and your hotel, you could just, we don't work with Marriott, but if they did, if they integrated our technology, they could allow their visitors to use their app to move all around the world without having to find local apps for every mobility service. And then once they get to the hotel and they're going to be there for 3 days, they could use the app to move around on scooters and bikes and public transit without having to download different apps for everything. That's what we're trying to do. And why we're trying to do that is because of what I said here. This is why we're trying to do it. How do we get more people out of cars and into sustainable, shared, multimodal mobility? Is, first of all, we've got to tackle the fragmentation problem that exists with this Web 2 mindset. So this is our first platform product. This is what I was just describing. We basically take APIs, for those of you familiar with that. We take APIs, we integrate the Uber and the Bolts and the Tiers and the Voice all the way so that you as a user, if you're using our technology, you don't know you're using our technology because we're not a consumer brand. We plug this inside as like an Intel Inside middleware solution into train apps and transit apps, etc., so they can offer this to their user base. But if you're using it, you can discover services around you. You can get a journey plan that allows you to combine everything. Even things like for Brightline Trains, our client in the US, as well as London Northeastern Rail, they both wanted parking at the train station to be one of the options for users so people could do park and ride. You know, we always think cars are evil, and I'm not a huge car fan, but cars have a role. You know, a lot of times people live in areas where a car is kind of like the only option. But instead of it being the only option to go all the way door to door, why don't you make it easier for somebody to take the car to a station so then they can ride the train the rest of the way? So we built that into our journey planner, so you could factor in your own private car to do a park and ride. You can book your parking in advance, you book your train in advance, you're on the train, you can either book your last mile in advance or you can book it while you're on the train. Or like me, many times, I know I'm kind of crazy this way because I really do. I love using green mobility and bikes and scooters and everything. I'll take a train, and if I'm on a short trip where I only have a backpack or something, I'll look for a scooter at the train station I'm arriving to. And with our technology, you can discover, route, book, so you can reserve it. You can unlock it, like unlock a scooter, take it, lock it, pay for it, without ever downloading the app of that scooter company. Now, when you think about when you move around cities, you move around a country, you move around the world, how powerful that is to not have to have all these different apps on your phone, download new apps. And that friction that we create from this Web 2 mindset is such a barrier for people moving greener. And that's what we're trying to tackle. So that platform we built is there already. But in the concept of Moss, in fact, I'm going to jump ahead to another slide for a second. I'm going to jump all the way to here for a second. In the world of Moss, mobility as a service, there's been for 10 years this concept of 4 levels of aspiration for mobility as a service. And the 4th level is seen as like the holy grail. The holy grail of Moss is, can you embed societal incentives so that people are encouraged to move greener and use all these sustainable mobility services through incentives, through nudging mechanisms that allow sustainable mobility to be more inclusive, so more people have access to it, not just wealthy people, but also we accelerate the adoption of these greener mobility options. What we decided last year was that our platform was not succeeding in level 4. It was good for the earlier levels of solving fragmentation the way we described, but it wasn't solving this other pain. And instead of trying to solve it through the same product initially, we said, why don't we create a new product? And that's what WheelCoin is. So I'm going to introduce you to WheelCoin. So WheelCoin is an app. You can all download WheelCoin right now. I hope you do. It's in the App Store, iOS, Android. Some people are downloading it. I see that already. So, you know, with the crazy audience we have here, I'll get at least 8 more downloads from this community today. Really excited about that. So what WheelCoin does is, if I download as a user, I move around. I authorize the app to track my movements. I don't even have to look at the app. I don't have to turn it on. I could leave it, I could not have the app on for a week. It doesn't matter. If I have my GPS on and I authorize the app to use my mobility data, the app detects what mobility choices you make. It knows if you're walking, biking, on a train, on a bus, in a car, or a plane, and a ferry. It rewards you with WheelCoin. 1 WHL is equal to 1 kilogram of avoided emissions. How do we do that? Well, the technical part of it is we have a detection system that uses the hardware, triangulates data from your smartphone hardware. Your GPS, your speed of motion, your accelerometer for your motion, and it detects with 95% accuracy what you were on. You earn WheelCoin, and then WheelCoin can be used. We call it the air miles for green mobility. So you get WheelCoin. You know, air miles, you get air miles for flying, so you're contributing to climate change, right? Why not get an air miles for doing the opposite, for saving emissions by choosing greener options? That's what WheelCoin is. It's air miles for green mobility, passively detects, but it also does something just like air miles. You'll be able to see this here in the video. It's a video of my actual app that I have on my phone. Passively detected my motion these days. I got different amounts of WheelCoin for how much I moved, in which mode of mobility. And then down here we have redeem your WHL for discounts. These are all the discounts we've negotiated with companies around Europe and the world who are starting to offer us, to our users, you burn WHL that you've earned for free by moving green, and you get discounts on green mobility services and other kinds of services. So trains, EV car sharing, Heathrow Express. That's actually a metaverse thing because some of our customers wanted that. Flixbus, a bus service discount, Tier, Dot, These are examples of deals we already have in the app. You get them for free, these discounts, just by moving green. By doing the right thing, you get WheelCoin. Not only can you do that with WheelCoin, but you can do other things too that are really fun. So we have this program right here, Digital Collectibles Program. The first version had 100 collectibles from 20 cities around the world where we have a lot of users. And we have users in 140 countries right now. And yes, we have some in Portugal. It's kind of fun. You burn a WheelCoin and you get a surprise collectible comes out of the box. And the first version of this was celebrating train stations around the world. But the next version is, I'll show you, I have some examples, even more fun than those collectibles. Those you're getting for free too, and they're now on the blockchain. I don't want to bore you with details about what that means to be on the blockchain, but what it does mean is that any digital asset a user acquires in WheelCoin, they own. And it's not that they own it like you own in, I don't know, my daughter uses Roblox, right? She spends, well, I say she spent, we spend $10 a month on her subscription, right? And that's because she wants to be able to get more skins and more things for her profile and everything. The problem is, she's 11 now, she acts and looks like she's 15, and so any day now, she's gonna, I don't care about Roblox anymore. But what happens to all these digital assets she acquired, all these skins and I don't know, all the stuff she does there? All gone when she leaves. Can she sell them? Does she own them? No, they're not hers. When everything is on the blockchain, the user who acquires digital assets, whether that's WHL, the reward token, or whether that's digital collectibles, they own those things. And what does that mean they can do? They can buy and sell them in the open market. That we already have live. We have a dashboard tool, which I was showing a little bit there, which allows us to track anonymized data for user bases. We're using that with companies. So companies are using WheelCoin for business now, which is they encourage their employees to download the app. We give the company an anonymized dashboard, so they now have good data about the emissions of the mobility choices of their employees. We have leaderboards so they can create competitions to try to encourage their employees to move greener. They can have a monthly or annual prize for the greenest mobility employee, etc. And also, and one of the reasons I came here is I was talking to Vitor about this a few months ago, is that we're now rolling out something we call WheelCoin for Cities, which is currently, I don't know if I should say this with streaming, but I'll say it for now. Currently, it's free for cities. It won't be probably forever, but right now it's free. So I'm not selling anything. I'm offering this to help grow the community around the world right now, is what we're doing. So this is a case study of our first city rollout. The city promotes the adoption of WheelCoin. There's a video that runs here in their train stations. So they're in their trains and their buses, they have an infotainment system that encourages their residents to download the app and be part of this green revolution. These are 3 cities in Sweden that are part of the Net Zero EU Cities Initiative. They get digital collectibles designed for their community, but this time instead of those little train station icons, they look like this now. We're using artificial intelligence to generate points of interest digital collectibles. So we work with the cities to say which points of interest in your city you want to promote in the app, then we embed them. We're adding something for any of you who've ever experienced Pokemon Go. We're adding something like Pokemon Go into it, which is, you know that surprise box I showed you before when I pay a WheelCoin and some surprise collectible comes out? We're still doing that, but now we're going to have an extra part of our algorithm that the closer you are to a digital collectible, the higher the probability is you'll get it. So there's a bit more local flavor to it and a more desire from users to be more connected to the app and to the experience. Finally, they are offering things like discounts on public transit. So their residents can actually burn WheelCoin and get discounts on transit services by moving green in their own city. This is a precursor to where we think we will eventually get, which is WheelCoin as a loyalty token could actually be used as a payment token. It could actually be used for paying for public transit services. Cities could say, well, we'll give you discounts, or we'll allow you to burn 100 WheelCoin. You can actually get a monthly transit pass, or whatever that is. That's where we think it could eventually go. And I'm wrapping up. This is the journey we've been on. So we built Iomob a long time ago, the core mobility network. Now we've launched WheelCoin and WheelCoin for Cities. We're launching now with Santiago de Chile and Valdivia, Chile. They're launching in July. And then, you know what we are going to do that's really interesting is we're going to actually integrate WheelCoin and Iomob as one solution as well. We'll keep them separate, but some of our clients are saying, you know what, we'd like to have both. Remember that this thing here, they want both in one. They want a platform that allows people to move green easier by solving fragmentation, and they want an incentive scheme that actually allows their users to earn WheelCoin and spend them on the services inside the same app. Well, so we're going to be embedding the functions of WheelCoin inside our core mobility network. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Boyd.